Hey, it's Ed here. Today we're taking a look at technical analysis for Bitcoin. I'll cover wave analysis with Elliott Waves theory and provide multiple scenarios your price may take and explain why I prefer one count over another. Let's take a look at the different possibilities. I was asked to cover the higher time frame again, so let's start with the daily, and again starting the count from the 69k highs, as this is a very pivotal area. From here, I do have a few different ideas for this current structure of having this as a possible wave 1 at these tops and then looking for a wave 2 downwards. How that wave 2 is going to be playing out is a mystery still, but we can have a look into the counts that I got prepared here and see what they are like and what could be the reasons why I prefer them over something else. So let's start with this one. This is very proportionate ABC. I'm again on arithmetic scale at the moment. On logarithmic scale it looks a bit different, but the idea here is that we have a 5 waves into A, 3 pull back into wave 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now this structure was the sole reason I don't really like this, to be honest. The structures inside here are just not that good. The third wave and the fourth wave are just so out of proportion of the general ideas, but again it is not invalid. It is still possible that this indeed was a 5-way structure coming down into A wave, and then we had a 3-way pullback here for that wave B, and then continuation with this very good looking 5-way structure here. Now that into the C, or the lows of 17.6k or 7k, give something around there. But yeah, that was the expectation here. Now I don't see that this would be the end of this whole correction. So instead, I'm thinking that we are going to be getting some kind of pullback upwards and then continuation to the downside. So this would be a larger WXY or a B and C, something like that. However, I just don't see a very good looking bullish structure over the lows. Of course, it is possible as long as we don't take out these current lows that we have here with some kind of a leading diagonal in here. It is not very good looking though, so that's why I'm kind of staying away from that count. The other one that I kind of like overall is that we have an ABC here into W, 3 ways into X, and then we would have this as a 5-way structure into possible A wave, 3-way pullback into wave B, and now we would be looking for another 5-way structure into C to create that WXY XZ count. Or if this indeed was that 5-way, as I mentioned there, this would be a 5-way structure in which we would have this as an ABC, creating this larger WXY, where this wave Y would have this ABC. Now I feel like the WXYXZ fits into this better, just because the size of this wave, possible wave B or X wave, is very similar in size in time compared to this one. Of course, it is quite a bit shallower than this one here, but in time they are almost exact same. So that's why I almost like to have the WXYXZ in here instead of this very elongated ABC, because again this would be compared to this structure over here, and this feels like very similar to one of these structures that we have here. That of course brings us to the possibility of having this whole thing as an impulse wave count, because we have already established the possibility of this being a 5-way structure, this being a 5-way structure, and now we could be establishing this possibility as a 5-way structure as well. And again, for that one, this is very clear structure. We could be labeling it like this. We don't need actually like that. And in here we would have this as a 1, 2, 3, 4. Now wave 4 retracement is very small to 23.6. The extension on third on arithmetic is very small, less than 1. On logarithmic scale is around the 1.382. Does not really fit too well into the idea here, but that is something that we just have to deal with. There is a count on smaller time frames where this whole mess would be already over in here, and we would get some kind of truncation here. I don't like that idea, just because again I don't like truncations at all. So instead of 5-way that would end here, I would think that if we have to have this as a 5-way structure coming down, I would have this as a wave 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, something like that. Giving us back to that 10k area, which we could be eyeing on, and where we have a lot of support here. So those are the higher time frame structures. Of course, this structure here as a 5-way structure is the most bearish, because again, at that point, this would be a 5-wave structure. Either it is a start or an end of something. If it is a start of something, this would be a 5, 3, 5, a zigzag pattern taking us even lower at some point, or it would be the end of something, which would most likely be a expanded flat here. However, again, those extensions here are getting quite large. We are right around the 1.618 here. Of course, the 2.618 here is the max. We want to see that, but of course that is still a possibility. But yeah, it is very bearish if we want to be placing that 5-way structure in here. But yeah, those are the higher time frame structures that I'm looking at on Bitcoin. Let's take a look at the smaller time frame structures and see how they are fitting into the higher time frame structures as well. So let's start with maybe this one, in which we have this whole structure as an ABC into these highs that we had, and then we would have this as a potential A, B, and on this one we would have again a potential looking for the C wave. However, this is falling worse and worse in the probabilities, because again we are expecting a 5-way structure here onto that C wave, and here we can see a clear 3-way structure. So the only option that we have here would be a diagonal. However, at the moment, if we are placing trend lines here, we can see that they are pretty much parallel, and we also had this low here made when we were creating one of these structures here, this X wave, or the A of X wave, taking out the start of this whole structure. It's not, I don't think it is invalidating it, but again, it doesn't make it look good, and it is creating that controversy around this whole count. So that's why I don't really like this one. We were talking about this bullish count, how unlikely it is, and just by looking at this whole mess, I can say that it is very much of the lowest priority, or most least possible option I think I have at the moment. Now getting into the more of the better looking counts, where we would have this as a 3-way structure into A wave, 3-way structure here into B, and then we would be looking for higher. The better looking option or modification of this count would be this one, in which the A wave is in here instead of in here. So we don't need to be having that weird looking expanded flat, where the 5-way structure would be so much larger than the first structure or first 2 structures here. So yeah, in time it would be abnormal, I feel like. In here, if we are looking at and comparing the wave A in time to that wave, possible end of wave B here, or sorry, that was not the end of B, this was just the A wave here, sorry. This was again a 5-way structure as a contracting diagonal. Now if we are thinking about the higher time frame count, where this could be fitting, this where we could have that as a wave 4 and having that as a wave 1, where we would have this contracting diagonal as a wave 1 and then looking for pullback for that wave 2 and then continuation to the downside. This would fit into that idea very well. But on this count, if we want to be having the counts starting from here on these lows, then this having this as an A wave, this would have to be a wave A as well, because it would be a 5-way structure or a multi-way structure, then looking for that wave B and then C. The maximum this whole thing could go down to with that C, micro C, is the 1.618, which would be around 13k. That wouldn't definitely have the right look anymore in mind, because again, this is already taken pretty much the same amount of time compared to that A wave. If we are measuring that here, 1-to-1 is just past where we currently have it, so it wouldn't make too much sense for this to be so elongated. Of course, that is something that sometimes happens with B waves or X waves, so we can't throw out this option either. Then we had the best looking structure with considering the RSI, in which again, if we are starting the structures from here, we would have a 3-way structure in here, actually, yeah, well, the only issue is that ending the count here is not the best, of course, in RSI, but yeah, we have to be allowing that if we want to have this C wave here, otherwise it would be not possible. So in here we would have a structure like this, something like this coming down into the lows, and of course as the if we have an impulse wave here, the third of third has the lowest RSI, which would make sense here, and then we would have divergence all the way through. We are falling a bit short here on at least 2 hour time frame here, that we don't have that divergence here. I think we had it on smaller time frames though, so it would fit the idea. So this would be an A wave, B wave and C wave, creating us that high here from the very lows, so something like this in RSI, creating that finished structure into this possible A wave. Again, if we are starting the counts from here and thinking that this is a three-way structure, we could be looking for another three-way structure in the form of wave B. Now, why wave B is just because the more often than not is that when we take out the previous lows here or get back to the 0.9 area, we are dealing with a flat structure. In here, we could be labeling this as a B here. But again, as mentioned on the daily videos, we are looking into this possibility. I do think that we had this as a three-way structure in here. We definitely have a possibility where we have this as a W, X and wave Y. The X is hidden there, into a possible A wave. And then we would have three ways like so, and then another possible three ways upwards. Now, the reason why I've labeled this last leg as an A instead of a wave 1 is just because the extensions we would be getting. Now, if we are looking at this here and looking at the most common wave 2 retracement, which would be the golden pocket around 18.7k ish, we would be getting really far up. 1.618 again would be the expectation of that 1, 2, 3 and then 4th and 5th, and at that point again we would be so high up on these areas that I don't think it would make too much sense. Of course, at that point we would have to modify this to be an A instead of X or W, and then B and then C. Of course, that is still possible, and we might need to modify that into it, but I would rather at this very moment label this as a W, X and Y, and label it like this, just because of the extensions, also the retracements of this W wave move. The golden pocket here would be again the retracement of this W wave here around 21k, and we do have that very much of a possibility if we are doing something like this. We do have some confluence around there. Even if we would be running from current structure, we would be getting right into that golden pocket. But we'll look into this smaller time frame maybe tomorrow. I don't think I should be getting into that today because this video is going to be quite long on its own already. So yeah, it is possible that this structure is a three-way structure. However, subway structures in there can be set as a five-way as well, where we could be creating something like this, getting us to that golden pocket if we still want to be bullish, and getting some kind of extension here onto that C leg, right into the golden pocket with these extension targets. But yeah, of course, nothing is guaranteed, and that is just one idea here what could happen. Again, that would take us to the X wave, and then we would be looking for that wave Y to end the wave B, and then again we would be looking for C wave as part of that larger A, B and then C wave. But just one of the counts here that could be possible. Then Dan actually had his count ending at these lows. This is very much of a possibility, of course, as well. The B wave did not get to the 38.2 at the moment, so that is a bit not that good. Of course, this could be a wave 1, 2 as well, as per the wave 4 count where we had impulsing coming down, and then this would be a 1, 2, and then a continuation to the downside as another possible 1, 2 here. This structure, however, looks way more like a impulsive wave structure, so I'm not quite sure how he has this, or if he has anything like this anymore on his charts. But again, having this labeled as a wave 2 doesn't really feel too good. If we want to having a wave 2, we definitely need to have it later, I think, creating something like this overall, because this looks so impulsive on smaller time frames as well. And yeah, I don't think this is one of the most likely scenarios, but yeah, just another thought here. As you see, on higher time frames or any time frames, there are a lot of different counts that can be valid. Of course, others are looking a bit better than the others, but or the rest. But those are just some ideas that you can be following or seeing your own count and comparing it to them, and why I have them labeled as I do. And the very small time frame, I do like the idea of having this as a 5-way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had this third up in here previously because we had that as the highest high on RSI. But going through these previous possible wave 4 areas made me think that again, that is most likely already done at these highs, although we don't have that divergence here on 15 minutes. I think we only had it on very small time frame, yeah, like 1 minute, third of thirds here, having that divergence against the third of fifths here. So that is basically the only area where you have some kind of divergence on very small time frame. But yeah, I feel like I'm not going to get too detailed into this. I'll do that tomorrow and continue from there on out. But those were the highest or the best looking structures that I have, or at least the ones that I'm currently looking into. There are definitely good looking structures in here. Some of them are better than not, or the others. Like the same issue is coming to me every time I'm labeling these contracting diagonals here onto this wave 4, having this as the lowest low here. I don't think I can label this as anything like this. At that point, again, we wouldn't have any issues with this structure other than this looking like a 5-way structure. So yeah, all of the counts inside here have some kind of issue on them, and therefore I don't have a very good looking primary. I do think I like this at the moment very much, or the most at the moment, because I don't need to be fitting that diagonal into these areas here. And I do think that this structure from the current lows that we had on the 13th is the best looking, where we are at least expecting one more high here before continuation to the downside possible. But I feel like that is pretty much all I wanted to share today on Bitcoin on higher time frame. If you made it this far into the video, I would appreciate the likes, and yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next video. Bye bye.